and over to I-15, UDOT, was working for Congress then. You ran into some old Indian roads.
Exactly. Natural artifacts.
It did not, there was a mound there that the road had to go right, bulldoze it over basically. And they found some old pit houses on top of the mound when they did the EIS. They didn't stop it. There's now a little state park off to the side on the edge of the canyon that was the mitigation.
Yeah.
And they bulldozed the pit houses, but they had to mitigate it. That's the kind of thing.
They had to move some of the pit houses off.
Over into the, basically.
Springfield, SR9 down in Springfield, at the mouth of the Zion Canyon, there was some historic sandstone ditches that were built when the pioneers came into that area. That corridor was just widened, and part of the mitigation is we had to build a section of that corridor with that historic ditch built in remembrance, basically.
Yeah, I asked for the quality of life element. Is it only restricted to low income? Okay, so there's a variety of things to look at.
The list of criteria is quite long.
Okay.
I've heard you talk about wetlands. Do you look at wildlife also?
Yeah, that threatened endangered species would be part of that wildlife impact.
Deer aren't threatened yet, right?
They're definitely
not.
not.
High school, shoot them there.
Suicidal deer, you mean?
Even if it shuts down the street.
Eric, can you talk to us
Say,
about
get a
the
dog.
process UDOT will go through to recruit the consultant that will do the work?
You bet. So,
Kids when they're fried.
there's a question about the process that UDOT would go through to procure a consultant. The project value is large. It's $4 million. And so, because of that, there's criteria that we have to go through. We'll go through what we call a request for qualifications. We'll put together a scope of work, a schedule, and submit that to our consultant services team. A group will be identified as part of a selection membership team. The consultants teams will submit their proposals. A selection team will evaluate those proposals against the criteria that was established in the advertisement. And we'll rate those teams and we'll select based on the best qualified, not necessarily the lowest cost, but the best qualified firm.
What's the earliest, in your mind's eye, that the project would get kicked off?
So, like I said, the July 1 is the funding availability. That procurement process can take anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months. And then negotiation sometimes extends a little bit further. We're just finalizing an environmental impact statement negotiation in Provo, and we're working on month 3 or 4 in that process.
I understand the process quite lengthy, but I sit here and think, what on earth takes 4 years to come and look at the land and look at all the mitigation factors, look at all the things on that list? Does it only work 1 day a month, or get them out and get working?
It's almost full time. I would dare say that working with the citizenry and making certain that the citizenry has been heard and that we've addressed their concerns is probably the most time consuming component of that work.
Took 6 hours to do one street. Right?
Feel grateful in California, this would be a 6 to 10 year project.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
yeah, the process, because it's so publicly driven, it really takes a lot of time to work through that.
So how much do citizens in New York get to weigh in?
If they want to, that's their opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
So when's the soonest we might see some proposals of routes?
Oh, goodness, it could be a while. We got to establish a purpose and need. Getting the contractor will probably be into next year.
Okay, so within a year or so, we might see some route options.
The lists are...
Right, but then you have to get the public input, and that takes a really long time. But
We have to do the analysis on that.
But that's not what, I just want to know when the public might see some routes that could possibly work that you are considering?
Okay, so I will try to quantify some of the process. I don't know all of the specific details, but this purpose and need statement. Leading into that, we have what we call a scoping meeting, where we open it up to the public, and the public helps us develop the scope that then feeds into this purpose and need statement. There are I don't even know the number of how many times that we reach out to the public, but there are opportunities throughout this process. There's a screening workshop that would happen, and that's really where you would see the
Well, I'm just thinking very nuts and bolts about this, that there's projects in our community that are in limbo. I can think of about 5 of them right now that are in limbo until we start seeing what routes are on your list, but also what aren't on your list. Because that's going to matter on some of these projects. So that's why I'm just kind of asking when we might see some routes. Within a year and a half, we might start to see some of that coming out of your office.
That's probably reasonable.
Okay.
So that drives
Eric,
development?
in terms of follow-up to that last question, in our Envision Heber 2050 program, we have a website we've created. It's the place to go to for information on that project. We're going to do the same for the airport master plan. You anticipate using a similar type of outreach where people can go to get updated information anytime?
Yeah, we use the web extensively on these types of projects. They'll have a full public involvement team that will be involved in social media outreach. There'll be public meetings. Sometimes public meetings, this most recent public meeting, we had very good attendance. We like that attendance from the public. It lets us know what the public wants. Sometimes we go to a project that's maybe not quite as controversial as this one, and we may get 5 or 10 people showing up to a public meeting. We spend a lot of money putting these public meetings together, so we'll meet the criteria that's established by the federal government, but we also look at other opportunities and ways to communicate with the public. On some projects, we've gone as far as putting up a tent out on the sidewalk on Main Street to gather it or whatever. So I don't know what the public involvement team will do to engage the public, but we try to use as many options as there are available to us.
I guess it goes without saying that the last meeting you referred to was more public telling you what they didn't want. And that's probably what gets most attention every time. But again, back to Tracy's comment, once you slap those routes up, you'll get some I don't want attendance, probably for each one of them. But I think the public's out there not having a clue how this may affect them, and the sooner we can let them know that, the better input you'll be getting, I think.
I would dare say that as soon as we know, we will let the public. You got a question, sir?
Yeah, as far as the environmental impact is concerned, the Heber Valley is a big bowl. And if there's this expansive growth that's coming in, and the routing and everything else, are you looking at or anticipating keeping Heber from turning into a smog cesspool inversion layer like Salt Lake is?
Air quality will be part of the process of evaluation. The growth is coming.
The trouble with that, cars moving through cause less smog than cars stopping all the way up Highway 4.
Exactly, that's why
right?
traffic flow is critical.
Yeah.
But they're not sitting around.
So another
Keeping
2
the others
lanes may avert some of the fog, the smog.
You may have heard with some of the growth numbers from MAG. Basically, the Wasatch County area is going to double in population, and about 60% of that is internal. We have really big families. My family helped settle this valley. I'm one of the crossed area of this valley. And as I look at that branch and the trees that expand, there are hundreds if not thousands of us that came into this valley in basically 1850.
All of these guys' grandkids live here, most of them.
70% of the growth in the state is internal.
That's right. That's right. We have a great place to live, and our kids want to stay here.
Not me.
You're from here?
You're in that 30%.
I only had 2 kids.
Makes me think we just wasted 15 years working the direction we're going, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We just want to start over.
If we could have had an environmental statement done 15 years ago, we'd be much farther along.
We should have started out with the environmental statement, other than having to go get the corridor.
Unfortunately, I wasn't around. I can't correct what happened in the past. All I can do is move
It
forward.
looks to me like we need to be finding some local.
Well, you, wait a minute, you said that you've been here forever. Yes, you can.
My family has, that's right. I spent a lot of time here in this valley growing up. This valley is near. My grandparents lived 3 blocks down the street.
Whatever happened with the legislation that Wasatch County would get reimbursed for that land that they purchased, because other communities got reimbursed for land that they purchased? Yeah.
So if there's a corridor agreement, that if the corridor is chosen on this land that is purchased, there will be a reimbursement for
So
this.
if it's not,
If it's state funded.
if it's not on the list, we won't get reimbursed.
So if the corridor doesn't go where they bought land, you don't owe them a penny.
That's correct.
They own land.
So the only way you pay the county is when the road goes on it and it's UDOT's property.
If it's a UDOT road that we build, yeah,
Well, we can sell it, can't we?
that's right.
Sure. We could sell little
Or a bunch of
6, 80-foot park
Well, one of it was
strips.
not just that, one of it was all around that, because you were talking about selling the other land anyway. It would be-
Some of them we bought entire parcels, some of them we just bought the 100-foot.
Some of it's been obtained.
The piece we acquired down our side is,
Eric, last question. Do you expect one contractor with a bunch of subs or multiple contractors in order?
Yeah. Question is, do we expect one consultant or multiple consultants? We would expect a prime consultant, most likely with a lot of sub-consultants that have specialty in their specific area.
we're,
Likely it's going to be a very large team.
Are there multiple things that can be done in parallel? Or is it serial?
Help me understand.
So are there,
Different stuff.
yeah, there are multiple
Process.
elements of the study that can be studied at the same time, or are they a series?
There's a combination of both of those.
Thank you.
Just briefly address, Mayor Potter, the idea of us using corridor preservation funds to try to predict our own future and destiny. I still think that that's the right approach that we've taken. We've got to this point because we've shown UDOT that we're serious about preserving the corridor. We've used this technique in Lehigh City 25 years ago, and that's where the state's building the 3 biggest roads that we have in Utah County. So I hope that you don't feel discouraged that we've done something by mistake, because I don't believe we have. I think we've done the right thing by passing the corridor preservation fund and by preserving right away that you, the local governments, thought you wanted to act as the future bypass. And I think when all things are equal, if all things are equal and we own the property or we don't own the property, I believe the least damaging alternative will be the property that you guys own. So I just wanted to...
You must be the only one who feels that way, Sean.
Probably.
UDOT would purchase what we've already purchased. Would they, like, if we were to offer for sale today, would they purchase what we've already?
Not today, but if a project is identified on that property, yes, they would purchase it. They are required to purchase it.
Gotcha.
so from today on,
No, it's
any,
when they-
is there any advantage to buying it anymore?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because you're collecting the corridor fee to pay for what we already bought.
Well, maybe, but
Well, we got to.
I I mean, whatever enticement buying it did is done, and we've got our study. Why would you buy ahead of the tiger now?
Probably not.
One of the pieces, the county bought in anticipation, will take another 3, 4 years or whatever to pay it off. The county bought it, we're getting reimbursed for corridor money.
So I would like to weigh in on the property conversation about whether to continue or you know. If, as Sean stated, that all things are equal and the least damaging alternative is the corridor that the city and the county already own. The fact that the city and county have bought it today at the lower cost, right, because property is continuing to increase, lowers the overall project costs. As the project then starts to compete for funding to actually construct it from a statewide need, the lower the cost is to build, the better it's going to compete on the statewide level.
So they will buy it from the county at their cost, not at the present market value.
I don't know the details on that.
I don't know enough either to make a comment on that, but I think
Well,
the idea
the
is that you're
statement is
determining
not-
your own destiny.
I know, but if your statement only is valid if they only reimburse you for what you pay, because if they reimburse present market value, it is what it is.
I wouldn't analyze it too much beyond the fact that if you want your project to go sooner than someone else's project, and if you wanted to donate that right away to this cause, then that could be motivation for them to prioritize this project over someone else's too.
What's the total amount we've spent on corridor preservation, roughly?
All of it.
No, do you know how many millions,
I
or
think it's just over 3.
3 million that we've spent?
About 800,000 a year, I think, was the last.
300,000.
Is it 300,000?
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 10.
So it sounds like we have a greater understanding.
So
That's all.
14 years we've been doing it,
Yeah.
and it's about 300 a year, 300,000 a year? Okay.
So it sounds like if we keep incubating the process through the corridor preservation, then that can weigh heavily in EIS as far as it will lessen the impact. So the more we can buy, the more we can push the route towards the corridor where we're at.
That's been our strategy for the past 10 years, and I've seen it work in other communities. It might not work up here because of the complex environmental issues we have, the social impacts that this road could have. But I think you've set out a good alignment that we determined 10 years ago as an alignment that was plausible, and now we'll see if it holds up in the environmental side.
So they are invited to this meeting and choose, as far as I know, and choose never to come, but so if a new high school were to be plunked down into one of the alternative routes, maybe one of the better ones, they're not going to tear it down to go through it, so that shifts the route to perhaps a more expensive alternative, I suppose.
Now, they might tear it down and put a park in memorandum.
Whatever, but, no, I'm just saying, as we develop, and to the comment that people have things that need to be happening, if you put a school or a development road where maybe the route would be, or you put new homes where maybe the route should be, because we have to keep living around here. This is an ongoing process, but when you study it now, by the time you get around to it, there may be 100 $500,000 homes sitting in your way that aren't there today. How much does that even factor in? Because the EIS may say this route's just fine now, but when they go to finishing it up, all of a sudden there's how many $1 million high school sitting there
90.
that wasn't considered in the process.
It'll be considered, they'll be moving that, they'll try to get ahead of it.
But also, Sean, doesn't they take into effect a mitigation, and the biggest issue we're faced is wetlands. There's possibility we could mitigate out that.
That's right.
That's why, what I'm saying about the Indian thing, they did.
They mitigated out, and that's
So,
even on the tail end of
That's right. Whenever we have an environmental theme or a social theme that we're concerned about, there's three initial techniques. You try to avoid,
I know it's meant to.
if possible, avoid that topic, avoid by going around it. You try to minimize the impact to it, and then you mitigate any impact to it. So you approach it with those kind of incremental steps: avoid, minimize, mitigate.
And all three of them is measured against the economic cost.
Yes, and they'll balance that out with the total cost of the project.
The environmental impact.
All right, is that it?
Thank you.
All right, last item